Hey YouTube, what goes on? And welcome to Disavowed Action Figures X-Files. We took a week off. That might happen sometimes, but we are back. We are here this week talking about X-Men, the animated series, the show that just made all of us into the little happy geeks that we are in our lives. And we are discussing episode 7, which is going to be Slave Island. I'm very excited for this episode tonight. I know some people get very excited with the cameos, and I'm one of those people. And this episode, holy smokes, people during last week were reaching out and saying, hey, why didn't you do a show this week? Because we're pumped because there's so many friggin' cameos, and they are chocked full of cameos. But one person who's not getting a cameo, he's getting his own episode tonight. I'm very, very fortunate to have this amazing co-host tonight here on the X-Files. He's coming to us straight from magical land that is called Lago Land. The man and the myth, Lago Figz. There he is, folks.
What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Welcome to Lago Land, invading Disavowed Action Figure Land.
Yeah, you don't need to invade. You are welcome to come across that bridge or come across that boundary anytime you want. Hang out here in the Commonwealth, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here, man. I'm a huge fan. I watch, like I was telling you, I watch all the hunts all the time. I love watching your channel, man.
That's greatly appreciated. It's been really cool the last 8 months or so. I got to meet you a bunch of times. We just saw each other at, I always screw the name up, ToyCon NJ, ToyCon New Jersey, right?
Yep.
Obviously, we saw each other at ZoloCon, and you and your Toymigo friends were very kind to have me on your Tuesday show a couple months ago, I believe. So
yeah, and thanks to you, I found out about ZoloCon, and I loved that show. That was one of my favorite shows of the year.
Yeah, that's such a stacked show, and I know we talked multiple times, and we're not here to talk about that, but a little bit about it.
Right,
just
right.
Ambiance, just the way you have the NASA stuff going on, and obviously the toys. It's just an amazing show.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something else. It's something different, something out of the ordinary.
I think that's the best way you can put it, sir. It's very unique. It's not your typical run-of-the-mill toy show. It's not in a gym. It's not, it's literally in this amazing facility. If everybody wants to check that out, Archie, myself, a lot of toy hunters have done toy hunt videos from there. So check those out, and maybe Lago and I'll talk to you at the next ZoloCon while we're there.
Yeah, I'm always down to talk.
Yeah, man, me too. I was just saying to you off camera, I got to slow it down sometimes. So it's feel free to jump in. So Lago, before we get to asking you about what this show means to you, let's say hello to who's in the chat. Good buddy of mine, local guy, Jay Girk, the collector. What's going on, Jay Girk? We have Lucas in the house. Lucas is on me last week. He's like, dude, where's the episode? I watched. So, Lucas, I told you we'd get to it. Greg in the house. Who let the Bruno out? That's right. Bruno's not here tonight. He's with his mom, but Bruno's doing well. Machu Toy in the house, Lago.
Yo, what's up, Machu?
I believe you were hanging out with him at the ToyCon NJ, right?
Oh, yeah. We even went to Buffalo Wild Wings. I was there for 4 hours. Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, my goodness. That sounds like a good time.
Lucas
says, we don't talk about Bruno. Not when he's here, because he gets angry that he's not back here. Previously on Disavowed, says Greg. Machu says, previously on Lago Land.
Oh, that's a good
Love it. Four Feathers in the house. What's going on, Four Feathers? How you doing, buddy? Greg also says, Machu made Disavowed skip a week. Machu melted my brain with his X-Men knowledge, and I had to skip a week. What can I say? He melted my brain. Who else we got here? James, a.k.a. Ratface44, killing it, Lago, with his G.I. Joe Classified reviews on YouTube.
Oh, man, I got to watch.
He slays it, man, and he gets them early. And he's there. He's got the hands on camera. He's moving them around. It's an inspiration when I see
that's awesome.
His videos for sure. All right, so I think we're all caught up, Lago. So, sir, we'd like to start off every week by posing the question, what does X-Men, the animated series, the cartoon, mean to you?
Well, you know what it is? It's the first, I guess, entry into the X-Men for me. Like many 90s kids, that's what I thought the X-Men were. I didn't really read comics at the time. And I remember my cousin, once he found out that I really liked it, he bought me almost a whole set of the 93 cards. And I would look at those cards and then look at the show, and it was just everything to me. Those were the shows I loved. X-Men the animated series, Spider-Man the animated series, Batman the animated series, and those things are what got me into what I do now, which is collecting. With the Toy Biz line. I remember my aunt, she got me this the Mutant Hall of Fame. You ever see that one? It's
Yes,
like
that's
this.
amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody ever opened it, but it's a total letdown when you open it because it's like they're all glued together. Like it's not, you can't even do anything with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember getting that and being so happy because it was the characters I would see in the animated series. It was perfect. And yeah, that this show is I keep watching it every single time, and I'm one of those dads that I show my children what I used to watch and try to get them into it, and my son's into it too. So actually, before coming on, the last thing we watched was X-Men the animated series before they put them to bed. So
That's incredible, and that's the cool thing with that show. I mean, you grew up watching it much like I did, and we've talked about it on previous episodes here on X-Files. It's the topics that they cover. They teach you to be a good person, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So as a parent, you don't need to be scared to show that to your kid. I wouldn't think. And even better now that we have access to Disney Plus. We're not scouring YouTube. We're not looking for all the old VHS tapes, which I do love, by the way, the old VHS tapes.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's easily accessible. And you mentioned all those other great cartoons, that go along with it in that same Marvel cartoon universe. It's such good stuff, man.
And I remember when I was a kid, I was always like, then afterwards I would look at the comic books or the cards and I'd be like, oh, why doesn't the art look like this? And as you grow older, you learn to appreciate the animated art a lot more. And even now, I love the animated art. Like to me, that's like the number one type of designs for these characters for me. So much so that going to figures, I'm all in on the Mondo line. Like I cannot say no to anything from that Mondo line because they look exactly like the show.
See, I made a mistake. I didn't tell you rule number 1, which is don't enable me while you're on. They look so good. I don't have any of them. And then I saw that Sabretooth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I want that in Marvel Legends format. Like take that and just shrink it and make it into a Marvel Legend, please.
Yeah. And it all started with those busts by like Diamond Select. I would see them at Walmart. I see them in your hunts. I'm like, oh, those look so good. But what am I going to do with that? And then Mondo comes out with this fire. It's ridiculous. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to get the SDCC Wolverine that they teased. Mm-hmm. That one looks good.
Yeah, man. You got to know somebody on the West Coast. That's what it is. You got to have a connection out there. But yeah, they look insane. And again, I always mention it's hard with space and finding places to put things. You're very, very good with that. I saw on Toy Migos this past Tuesday, you were able to show off how you have your Thunder Tank displayed, I believe.
Oh, yeah, it's right behind me. Yeah, I try to I wouldn't say limit because it's a pretty big room, but I try to limit how many things I get. I don't like putting things in bins. So if I can't display, it's display or nay. For me, it's display or nay. If I have to put it in a bin, I got to get rid of it. If I have to make space, I got to start selling some stuff off, and that's kind of how I do it.
That's a great way of looking at it. And I very much agree. I try not to be a bin guy because I feel like, again, if you can't enjoy okay, so my big eternal question. I still collect comic books today. Actually, I was at my comic shop today getting stuff. Very excited to read the new Jonathan Hickman Ultimates book over here. But comic books I've struggled with over the years recently because I love them. It's an enjoyable read. It keeps me active with reading. Then they go in a long box. I never look them ever again.
Yeah.
With figures, I said when I got into this hobby, I want them out. I want to see them. I don't want to have to go dig through a box. And I get why people, do some bins, but like, I agree, man. I want it to be out there and I can look at it and go, I remember buying it. I bought it at Target, whatever. There's a story. I got it at ZoloCon, whatever.
Yeah. No, definitely. I exactly. That's exactly what it is. I want it to be showcased in a way, even if I'm not taking photos of it or even reviewing it or something. Sometimes, like just seeing it on display, that's more than enough for me.
Yeah, I completely agree, man, for sure. All right, so I'll tell you what, Lago. Let's rip right into the episode here. We'll jump right in. And as a lot of people are saying in the chat, they didn't screw around in this episode. They literally were like, we are throwing cameos in and at your face the entire time. So if you haven't watched the show before, everybody who's watching at home, basically, as we said, this is the X-Men and the animated series Rewatch. I try to make this basically like Oprah's book club. if you're watching the show weekly and we advertise an episode, watch the episode ahead of time, whether you've seen it before or not, and then we'll just kind of talk about it as a group. And all of this kind of came together, Lago, because we had Bo DeMeo on the Infinity Equation, who is the showrunner for X-Men 97.
Oh, wow.
And that would have been... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think I watched that episode.
It was amazing. Bo, shout out to you, sir. You're doing God's work regarding X-Men. He was so awesome on the show with us. And it got me thinking, like, I want to do a rewatch. And what cooler way to do it than to enjoy it with other collectors in the community. So we're working on the episodes.
I love that idea. And then you have people in the chat that are also kind of going with the flow. They're on episode 7 themselves, and they get to talk about it. It's really cool. Love this.
Yeah, that was the idea. So this is my very expensive, very professional Google Slides document I made for free. As I said, participation is encouraged. So if you're in the chat, if you're a lurker, as Dan Hu would say, and you're just kicking back, that's fine. But if you want to, be involved in the chat, if you want to make a comment afterwards because you watch this show on the playback, please feel free. It's encouraged. Lago and I, we want to hear your thoughts on the episode. All right. So Lago, every week I ask my guests to please say previously
on X-Men.
There it is. All right. So last week was our episode with basically Sabretooth and Wolverine fighting it out in Canada. Bunch of friendly Inuit Indians or Inuit fishermen. And then we also had at the very end of the episode, Storm, Gambit, and Jubilee were sent on a mission by Cyclops and Professor X to check out the island of Genosha and see if it was mutant friendly as they heard it was. Lago, looking at the picture, you've watched the episode. It turns out Genoshans aren't that friendly.
No way, Jose. Not at all. And these mutants, they should have known better. Nothing ever goes their way.
Yeah, you think you'd be like, okay, like if you ever go to Target, you'd be like, all right, I'm gonna watch. I hear Target has some pretty terrible people. All right, so the episode opens up with Jubilee waking up essentially in her cell, and right away they're like cameos, and you look to your right, and right away we already see Mystique, and we already see Pyro coming out of their own cells, which essentially, Lago, this episode is very much setting up the future episodes of the season, where we do get the Brotherhood of Mutants and some other ideas down the road.
Definitely, yeah. And it was awesome getting to see them right away because, again, this was for me the first time being shown these characters when I was a kid. But I'm sure people that were reading the comics were like, whoa, can't believe I saw that. And, they were super excited.
Yep, exactly. And again, as collectors of the action figures, like I was sitting in pre-show looking around like there's so many figures back here I can grab to put on the air because there's so many in this episode. It's like just taking your guys. I used to call them my guys, taking my guys and just like ramming them against each other as a kid and everything else. So we get more cameos right away. Here we basically get to see in the background, and it took me a while to figure this out that this was Richter.
Yeah, I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, it was a harder one for me to figure out until I saw him use his powers. And then, of course, I Googled it to confirm. The very much sought after Marvel Legends Richter figure that people are missed out on for that 3-pack. I was fortunate my friend Melissa picked it up down at Disney for me while I was on a shelf. And we also get Avalanche right out of the gate, another Brotherhood of Evil Mutants character. And then we also get in the background Thunderbird, which is, I believe, one of the original, not original X-Men, one of the 70s all different.
All new, yep.
Right. So again, like just right out of the gate, they never confirmed that it's Thunderbird. I read somewhere he's actually in the introduction, which I didn't notice. But yet again, Lago, we get even more cameos.
I got some info. I'm sorry to bother. Sorry to interrupt. Because I actually, just for this show, I have my X-Men Animated Series Bible book.
Oh,
here.
sweet.
Gives you a lot of info. And I'm looking at episode 7 here.
Okay,
and
nice.
It has character designs. It talks a lot about Cable and everything. It shows Warpath. It says Warpath, production cell of 3 of the enslaved mutants: Feral, Northstar, and Warpath. Which is pretty cool.
That's amazing insight because I've been.
There you go.
So let's take a look at that. That's awesome, man.
Can you see it? There you go.
Very helpful because again, that was the big question: is it Warpath or Thunderbird? They're brothers, right?
So once you said that, I was like, let me go check this out, and there it is.
Yep, and then you mentioned it was Feral as well, right?
Yep, Feral, Northstar, and Warpath.
And that was the one that I struggled with because I saw Feral and I thought Wolfsbane right away.
Yeah, because they look so similar. Yeah.
Until you hear them talk. I guess, is it an Irish accent for Wolfsbane, I believe, or Scottish maybe? Something like that.
I have no idea.
I think it's one of the two. They're Irish or they're Scottish. But yeah, and then we also get Sunfire. So you really do get a very wide variety. And you also even get from Alpha Flight, North Star, and I think it's Aurora. And I'm thinking to myself, Lago, how did all these mutants end up being on this island? Because they're all from all over the world. Like, what the hell?
I mean, they probably did a mass, I don't know, like a commercial or something. I don't know.
They sent out like a very good deal with air flight included to everybody.
Yeah. Well, you saw Gambit was talking about that mutant discount on episode 6. You know, they probably all wanted that mutant discount. So
that's what it's like. That's what we got on discount. Maybe we save 10% share.
I love that they were like wearing like all this like summer gear and Gambit's still wearing his trench coat.
yeah, we were talking about that 2 weeks ago. Like, why is he still in his like dude? He had no problem being in those X-Men swimsuit issues back in the 90s.
Right.
And actually, I think he was in a Speedo in one of the previous episodes this season with Rogue.
Was he?
Bathing suits, yeah. So like the dude's got swimwear to put on.
He probably knew something was up. He was
like, yeah, he's all focused. Now we also got a big long, I call it an exposition dump, where essentially they were explaining to the audience that, you know, all the mutants have on collars. They prohibit them from using their powers. They can only use their powers when the collars are either turned off or when they're actually detached. Well, Storm being Storm is like, oh, the minute you turn them off, let's like right away try to like revolt and get out of here. Yeah, and Gambit's like, you see Gambit's face here. He's like, I got up on the screen, sorry. He's like, dude, he's like, I don't think it's a good idea, Jubilee. And then Storm gets immediately crushed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would think Storm would be smarter about that, but no. Not in this case.
I think she was ticked off. She didn't get to enjoy her vacation. So she literally they turn the colors off. She's midair. She plunges into the water below. You'd think she'd be okay. But then one of the coolest moments in this episode to me, Lago, we see that that tentacle comes shooting out, and we get this cool view of the Sentinel just coming out of the water.
So awesome. So dramatic, such a nice scene. Even just in the screenshot, the composition having her in the foreground, him in the middle ground, and the background, and he's just giving that blank robotic stare with the water come dripping down. Such a great scene.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And the thing with it too is like every time this episode, really any episode that I see a Sentinel, I'm so happy I own a friggin' Sentinel.
Oh yeah, me too. I watch it and I look to the side because I have it like right next to the side. I look to the side. I'm like, yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mine's a little too low to see back here. It's on the bottom of the shelf, but it almost inspires me to finally open my Galactus.
Oh, you're still on that.
I still haven't opened my Galactus. I'm wearing a Galactus shirt again tonight. Didn't dig too deep in the t-shirt bin, but so yeah. All right, so here we get another good lineup. This is kind of blurry. I apologize for the screenshots. I cropped it, but we get a good look here at the Alpha Flight members. We have Blob in the background. Just again, a plethora of characters, an embarrassment of cameos in this episode. As we move forward. So Lago, can you tell us who this guy is here, generally speaking?
Not a good guy.
Not a
good guy at all. Definitely has Howard Stark vibes.
Yeah, he does. Dude, he does. Oh my gosh.
Like like once you showed it, I'm like, that looks like Howard Stark.
Well, you're not wrong. It's Trask. So it's Trask who also makes robots like the Starks did. And he was last seen earlier in this season where the president of the United States shut down the Sentinel program. So we find out that he basically his entire program apparently went to Genosha because they knew they were, racist scumbags in that country. They would support their work.
I like the way you put it.
Yeah. I'll hold back on that, man. So I think this is kind of cool here where we get to see how the mutants are using their powers. You have Sunfire basically drawing concrete as it comes out of the truck. But then Lago, there's this explosion off in the forest somewhere, another part of the compound. And basically everybody's like, oh no, he's back. And we have no clue right now who he's going to be. So we find out there's somebody basically like hunting everybody. Lago, I had to include this screen grab. How freaking cool is this screen grab, right? This picture.
It makes me want to buy another Sentinel and just take a photo of that same thing.
You're not wrong. Not the same thing. Oh, dude, honestly, like, this just invokes to me, like, what did I just see recently? Oh, crap. I just saw the Flash movie recently, which I enjoyed it. We'll leave it at that. I liked it.
Hey, man, I watched it too, and I loved it. I liked it a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not an Ezra Miller fan or whatever he did, but the movie is really good. Yeah, it's a really great movie.
All prefaces, he's weird. Whatever. He's not a good guy. Not a good dude. Mistreats people. But it invoked like the moment where they're like flying into battle, and there's like the Air Force is like alongside them in the air, and like I know that's not the image they're going for here because the Sentinels are obviously the antagonists, but it just looks really freaking cool.
Yeah, I'm surprised like nobody with like ACBA background. They probably did. I'm not sure. Did like replicated this photo because it's a great shot here. Yeah,
if you could get, I mean, I guess probably using some sort of like lines or something, you could suspend them, and then all you really need is just a blue background. Whether you actually do it outside, that would be really cool. I'm going on eBay and buying a $600 Marvel Legends Sentinel.
I was going to get to that. I was like, maybe just if you want to go the more like cheap route, you get that. What is it? That Marvel Legends 5 points Sentinel, 2 of those.
Yep.
And then get like a Marvel Universe 3/4 inch Gambit if they created one of those. I'm not sure, but make it work with that.
That's a great idea. Scale it down. I like it. Four Feathers said, "Yo, I meant to ask you about that Disavowed. When are you breaking that bad boy? It's gonna be a random day this summer. Like one random day, I'm gonna be in my living room because it's right in my line of sight. Like when I'm in my living room in my recliner, I can see it in my toy room, and it mocks me every day long.
So, come on, baby, open me. Let's go. Today's the day.
It's gonna happen. Four Feathers said concrete actually gives off heat. When drying, it actually has to be cooled to cure. The Hoover Dam had to have cool water pipes embedded with the concrete. No way. So Sunfire wasn't doing the right thing.
He was not telling them. He knew.
He
was doing it on purpose.
Trying to jam them up.
He's right. He's right though, because I did like whole concrete countertops for my kitchen.
Okay.
And while it's drying, you feel it, and it's really, really hot. So he's right. Totally right. Didn't think about that.
I always say, I'm 41 and I'm still learning. I'm sorry, 40. I'm 40, not 41. I'm 40 and I'm still learning. There it is.
Yeah, we're always learning. Come on.
Man. All right, so Jubilee being Jubilee, while that's going on, sees a little piece of like, what do you call it, wire, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I'm going to pick this up. It'll come in handy later. And then we get another cameo, and we get Caliban in this cameo. So,
wait.
And again, I don't think he talks at all in the episode, Lago. He's just kind of like staring at people in the background the entire time, basically.
Look at these shots. Oof.
Right. We jump back to the X-Mansion, and we find out Wolverine has come back from the previous episode to rejoin the X-Men. And Cyclops and Rogue and Jean Grey and Xavier are essentially like worried they can't reach Genosha via phone. So
the posing on this is great. You got the Wolverine. He's kind of like, yeah, I'm back. And Cyclops all pissed as well because he sees Wolverine. He never likes him.
Yep.
And then you got Rogue in that pose. That's such a Rogue pose.
I was just gonna say that. We were talking about showing this to kids, right?
Right.
And there's nothing inappropriate, but the thing is, like, the adult mind watching this, they really position. But then again, it's based on a comic book, which in the '90s, that's how they drew a lot of these characters.
Yeah, when I was a kid watching, I was not thinking like that apocalypse like meme. I was not thinking about that at all. I'm like, okay, he's just and like this. When I was a kid, I didn't think about. But as an adult, you're like, oh well, okay, I see what they're doing. But you're right. Comic books back in the '90s, they were very much like this. So it was just part of its time.
Even like the way they scream at times. Again, like we're not making it weird. But there's you see it as an adult, and you're like, what were they doing something here? Or were they not? Doing
It's just because our minds are tainted as adults. That's why we're not. Yeah.
We all forever live in the gutter because of the internet.
Yep, the internet. That's what it is.
I blame the MTV personally. So
That's the beginning of the end.
the MTV and the video games. The video games.
The video games.
Yeah. So Jubilee uses that little piece of wire. She finds a way out of her cell, and she goes to Gambit. She's all excited, and she's like, "All right, Gambit, I got a plan. We're gonna bust out of here." And he's like, "Go back to your cell. You're being an idiot. Leave me alone."
Blob, dude.
I don't get figures out every week, but I had to get the Blob out.
Dude, I have to get that one still, man. I saw it at the Toy Con, and I'm like, I don't know why I passed. I think it's because I bought so much other random stuff. I was like, but I have to get that one. That's such a nice fig.
It's a lot of fun. RG picked it up for, I think it was $50 at that show.
Shout out to RG, man. That guy's awesome.
He kills it, man. He's digging through all the bins. He finds everything at these toy shows. He really does.
And he goes there early, and he stays there for a while.
Oh, he always said, as a kid, we would always refer to, my parents were AAA members, and they had diamond parking at certain. So if you were AAA, you got like the closer parking spots. And I remember, I always say Art gets diamond parking because he gets there so early in the morning.
Yo, but shout out to Art, man. He's such a great guy. Oh, I hung out with him in New York when there was the Tamashi show, and that's where I really got to know him, and it's a cool guy.
He's an amazing dude. I don't keep it a secret. He inspired me to start my YouTube channel. Watching him, I was watching videos like everybody does, and I literally was like, oh, this guy's from Pennsylvania. Oh, he's that close to where I'm from. I can just go to stores like that, and nothing but a class act. Ever since I first talked to him, like encouraging me, giving me tips. So Art's a big reason my channel exists, to be perfectly honest.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. He's a reason why I dabble into trading cards now a little bit.
I was gonna bring that up earlier when you mentioned the trading cards as a kid.
Yeah, he's all into that now. Like I bought a pack of those Marvel cards he was telling me about. They're really awesome.
He has been trying so hard to enable me into buying those. And I fought the good fight. I got some AEW boxes on wrestling cards, but I haven't gone the route of the Marvel ones yet.
You see, I'm lucky because they're kind of hard. They're not in every Target, so I kind of miss out, I guess. But if I see them at Target, I'm probably picking them up. They're hard to find. They're not everywhere.
I need to see you with Art on a live stream opening cards, doing card breaks now. Now you have to make this happen now.
He knows way more than me. I'd just be like clueless, and he'd be like, "Well, that's the canvas card, and that's the parallels and all this." And
you just shake your head and say, "Okay."
That's what
just tell me they're valuable. I didn't waste my money. That's what.
Yep.
So here, Lago. We again jump back to the X Mansion, and Charles is like, "Okay, you guys should go check this out. Make sure the other X-Men are okay." And we don't get a visual cameo. We get a spoken cameo where we have Xavier saying, "I got some stuff to do," and he actually calls up Muir Island and he calls up Moira McTaggart, which, as you know, as a longtime X-Men fan, there's a connection there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually, I think he mentions her in the previous episode or in the beginning of this episode. I remember him mentioning her. I'm not too sure though, but yeah, he does mention her.
Can you just provide a little bit of background as to who she is and like what their connection is?
Not so much, actually.
Okay, so basically they used to be a couple, essentially. They used to be a couple, and she runs Muir Island, which is basically like a medical research facility. She'll be very influential on the show in future seasons as well.
Yeah.
And also, just to throw it out there, to anybody who reads comic books, I won't ruin too much of it, but about 4 or 5 years ago, they retconned her character, and Jonathan Hickman, who I was talking about earlier, my favorite comic book writer, did an amazing series called House of X Powers of 10.
House of X, yeah.
Did you? I don't know if you read comics. Did you read that one at all?
I read the first one, and I try to keep up, and then I kind of like let go. But I was reading a little bit of it.
It was so good, but it was she was basically the primary character in that series, which, like, she was a tertiary character at best over the years in the comics. So that was amazing. And they also have a son together, which I believe was Proteus. I think was their son in the cartoon. We'll get to that later. So Jubilee like starts telling people, Lago, she's like, hey, let's get out of here. And they're like, shut up. You're going to get us all in trouble. Like, you dumb kid, go back to bed. Well, the next morning they wake up and they're like, hey, by the way, we were just messing with you. We're in. So they're all in on the escape plan, Lago. They get outside and Jubilee gets the magic little controller to shut off the collars. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. The reason, Lago, it doesn't work is because Gambit betrayed them.
That damn Gambit.
Freaking Gambit. But here's the thing, Lago. You mentioned you watch my Toy Hunt videos. What do we call it when a collector waits as long as possible till a figure goes on clearance and then buys it?
You guys have to know this. It's a long game. Got to play the long game.
This is why I love Gambit in this episode. He's playing the long game, Lago. He's like, we're not in a rush. We're going to figure this thing out. We're not going to get ourselves killed. But in the meantime, poor Jubilee and, of course, Storm, for the fourth episode in a row, they hint on her claustrophobia here, right? By now, we get it. You don't have to tell us every episode, right? So now Storm and Jubilee are in the hole, basically, to use a reference from Shawshank Redemption. And Jubilee's crying because Storm's crying, saying Gambit will save us. Jubilee knows Gambit's the one that betrayed them. So, you know. But here we get this guy, Lago. This guy. Who is this guy? Master Mold.
The cool thing about this guy, Master Mold, is that they did come up with a head sculpt for the Sentinel on this one. And I think is that what you're getting right now?
13 seconds, buddy. This is why we're friends.
There it is.
There he is. Yep. This was one of the coolest things about that pack in Lago was the alternate heads, and we get the freaking mastermind.
No, it is awesome. And then like I said, playing with scale. If you want to get the smaller Sentinels, you could use those as the ones that he's creating. And have that one. You have to create a throne, but it'd be kind of cool if they came. I remember when the Sentinel was coming out, people were thinking that was going to be one of the unlocks, one of the throne. People were waiting for the throne.
Yeah, so freaking amazing. I actually cards on the table. When unlike Galactus, I opened that Sentinel the day it came in, so I wanted to get a review out right away for the channel. And I would say for the first 6 or 7 months, I had that displayed with that Master Mold head on there.
It is one of the more detailed heads out of all of them too.
Yeah, man, it's a great look. It was hard for me to want to make the decision to take it out. So basically, they built Master Mold, narratively speaking, to create more Sentinels, and they kind of come out of his chest. He'll eventually be the overall antagonist at the end of season 1. We formally are told as the audience, which we kind of already knew, that Gambit was the one who basically told the guards about Jubilee's plan. Trask is here again talking with, I'm blanking on his name right now, not Cameron Hodge. I can't think of this guy's name. I'm gonna be mad.
You're asking the wrong guy. I'm so bad with names. I could it's sad that even with Master Mold, I couldn't remember the name.
Greg in the chat's usually quick on this.
So bad with names.
I'm blanking on this guy's name from previous episodes. But anyways, Gambit's like, hey, I'll take you to the X-Men headquarters. I'll take you there when you're ready. And he's like, all right, cool. So he sends Gambit off, and Gambit is like, hey guys, want to see a card trick? The old 50 card pickup, which I love. And that's Gambit's way of escaping. And this Lago takes us to a guy whose name I know you're going to know.
Is he cable television? Cable, of course.
He is the most was it Striker? Greg said Striker. I think it might have been Striker. We get the most 90s character with the most pouches.
What does he have in these things all the time? What's funny about this one? I believe the first time I ever saw Cable was a Toy Biz figure. It was a Toy Biz figure. And then when I saw this one, I was like, whoa, he has so much more than the Toy Biz figure. Like I thought they went overboard with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when I found this one. I think this was the Sauron wave, maybe, for Marvel Legends.
Oh, the Marvel Legends one? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Sauron.
Could
But I
be.
found him at a GameStop, and I made like an audible shriek because I was so shocked to find him because I didn't expect to see him anywhere.
He's still difficult to find.
He
like
is.
even now.
I feel like we're gonna get something with him in the next year. I would just he's gonna be in the animated series, the 97. So you'd think we get him back. So Lago, basically, this leads to one of my favorite comments of the night, where Gambit asks, "Who are you?" And he says, "I'm the wild man of Borneo."
What?
And he asks where the leader is. And we didn't mention the leader, but the leader is basically the like cult leader of the island of Genosha that their Trask and all them are working with. And he says, here's a key that will unlock the callers for you to save your friends. And that's kind of like the MacGuffin, I guess, that they use to help themselves in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So
you know, it's funny. I'm looking at the book now,
mm-hmm.
and going back to Cable's design. You know, he has all that black in one eye. I thought it was just like shading that they would put in.
Uh-huh.
But I'm reading now. It's a tattoo. I didn't think it was a tattoo.
I wouldn't have known that either, man.
Wow. Okay. I was like, maybe I'm stupid. I didn't know this, but it says here, right eye has iris, pupil, black tattoo around eye.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
There you go. It's a tattoo. I thought it was just shading, like a dark black shade.
Hey, shout out to Six Packs and Knickknacks in the chat. Na. What's up, man? Well, yeah, thanks, Lago. I didn't know that either. So here's the one thing I'll point out, and this is kind of an ongoing, I guess you could say plot hole, but whatever, is that we get Cable here, and we get the big, long narrative explanation. We get another exposition dump right here, where they're showing Cable walk toward the building, and the leader and Hodge, Gyrick, his name's Gyrick. It just came to me.
That's what I was looking. I was flipping through the book trying to find it.
I should have known it. Henry Gyrick. It's where the brain works. So it's Gyrick. They're discussing essentially who Cable is for the audience's benefit. Like, he's a mercenary, he worked with the leader, blah, blah, blah. That matches up not at all with the fact that he's then like a time traveler
later on, yeah.
Later in the season, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever, I still think he's cool. You'll have that. So
they try to put in a cool character early in the show. You know, that's probably it.
And then they had to make it work later, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So Gambit goes and saves Jubilee, saves Storm. Gambit makes a funny line here. He says, "How can you sweat so much in that box and not lose weight?"
That wouldn't fly nowadays.
Yeah, you don't say that now. So Cable has this awesome gun where basically anything he shoots, it like then explodes. So he's a hell of a marksman, Lago. He's like picking off the building from a distance. And now all three of the X-Men are free, and Storm like goes ham. Storm's like, "I'm just gonna off everybody. I'm mad." And then we get this moment with Gambit, where as a kid, I only thought Gambit could charge cards.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing him charge up like these bolts or like a chain in other episodes always looked so cool to me when he did that.
Oh, that is pretty awesome. Yeah, because the cards is something that he always has. So what else? Like, he purposely only used cards. So you're like, maybe that's all he can do. But no.
Yep, I always thought that, and it makes sense because the cards are easy to keep on him. That they stash well. But they're now taking it to the Sentinels. We get a really cool moment here, Lago, where throughout the episode we saw a lot of the cameos, but here I think intentionally they show Jubilee turning off their collars, and we get a lineup of basically almost all the major cameos right here.
Right.
So we'll talk more about cameos at the end specifically, but you get a good look at basically the wide assortment of characters that are here. Now they're free. And again, here's just more of the cameo characters kind of showing off their mutant powers. Lago, this is where I realized that it was actually that this was Richter when I saw this image right here.
Okay.
Yeah, it took me till here to figure it out. I really didn't know.
Because before he was just in the back. It's kind of hard to see him too.
Yeah.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you couldn't really tell. Seeing him use his powers here, it made sense to me that was Richter. Here's a good shot of Blob and the Alpha Flight members, Aurora and North Star. So again, this is just a way for them to really kind of showcase all the other mutant powers. And then Lago, here we get a very important moment. Here we get the Blob about to throw a human off a bridge and essentially kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And Storm steps in and says, you can't kill humans. So this then shows us again that dichotomy of Magneto's view of things and Xavier's view of things, right? So,
yeah, and going back to what you were saying with showing this to children, it can kind of go with the whole idea of, people think differently, people have different ways of approaching things, but you have to pick the right way or what you think is right,
Exactly. And again, this show really at the end of it comes down to those two opposing views of how mutants should act towards humans. And Storm does save the guy, and she throws him back to the Blob and knocks him over, which is actually pretty funny. I will add this. So I didn't do as much research as you did with your book, Lago, but I did Google this a little bit. I wanted to make sure I shouldn't have known who this guy was next to Mystique. And I only found him referred to as random looking mutant. There's not a name for the guy. He never shows up ever again that I'm aware of.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what the book says. The book says, rough, not final, character models of miscellaneous enslaved mutants among an island full of them. Models by Rick Hoberg with assists from Lewis Williams. So it doesn't really give him his name either.
Gotcha.
It's almost like, isn't there a character in the opening scene, the music, that nobody knows who it was? It's just a random character running.
I think so, yeah. So that might have been this guy then. But yeah, they just kind of throw him in there as a background character, I guess.
Yeah, in the opening scene, the song and everything, there's some random guy, and everybody's always wondering who he is.
Oh, that was Fred. It's Fred.
Is it?
No,
okay.
It's
all right. I'm maybe you know the name.
No, I honestly don't. So Lago, as you're looking that up, we've had an ongoing bony finger of judgment going on this show, where usually Xavier is pointing at people, judging them. You don't get a bony finger of judgment from Xavier, but we do get it from Trask. He's you're not leaving me behind, Guy Rick.
I love the angle too.
Yeah.
The it's pretty dramatic there.
Alyssa's asking Lago what book that is. Now, my friend Jay Girk, who was here earlier, actually has that book. But I just want to really quick tell people what that book is and where maybe they can find it or whatever.
Yeah, I got this on Amazon for pretty cheap a while ago. It's just called The Art and Making of the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series. So I'll show you guys. Sorry, my headphones are all in the way. But this is what the cover looks like. And it's a pretty big book. And it has a lot of cool things, a lot of good information in there.
Wow.
And the guy I'm talking about, I don't know if you could see, it's really small. He's an alien-looking guy. He's over here by Pyro. I don't know if you can see him. He has a pink head. Okay. And people always it's a thing where people are who is this character? And I think he may have a name, but it's not the character that we were looking at there. It's a totally different character. Okay. Yeah. And
again, there are times we get the Morlocks. There are random Morlocks in that episode that we didn't know. So Cable's now hunting basically the leader, and Master Mold spits out this smaller Sentinel. I get Terminator vibes here, Lago, from this.
Yeah, that Sentinel looks sick. Yeah, it looks cool.
And it's literally small enough to maneuver through the building. I guess that was the point. So Cable makes short work of him. He basically shoots out the ceiling, kills that, whatever, destroys that. And then we jump to the 3 X-Men outside. And the whole episode was about building the dam, because the dam would be used to make enough power to basically have Master Mold make thousands of Sentinels.
Mm-hmm.
And in the scene we showed earlier, Trask and Gyrick are actually asking the leader if they could buy more of the mutant collars, because we know they want to use them on mutants. So in order to jam all this up, they have to destroy the dam. Now, all those very unthankful other cameos leave. They're we're gone. Good luck.
They bounce.
They bounce. They're like they Irish goodbye. Actually, no, they did say goodbye. This wasn't an Irish goodbye.
Okay.
But they were like, we're gonna go take over Genosha. We'll deal with the Sentinels later. So Storm takes it upon herself to destroy the dam herself using her storm powers. Obviously, she is successful, Lago. But of course, she falls, which we think might be to her death. But right in the nick of time, Rogue catches her.
There she is.
There she is.
Saving the day.
So the last thing we have to tie up in this episode, as far as exposition is concerned, is how things tie up between the leader, and I almost said leader and Lago. Between the leader.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, right. Lagoland's better than Genosha.
Yeah, we welcome mutants for sure.
And 10% discount, 20% discount.
20%. Sorry.
So Cable basically blows up the car. He catches up to all the politicians involved, and we're left with a moment we don't know what happens to them because Cable sees the wall of water from the dam coming, and he just laughs maniacally, and that's the last time we see them.
It's so random, huh?
It is. But here, Lago, at the end of the episode, we find out that Master Mold is also like sentient, if that's the right word to use, which has a whole conversation about AI associated with it in today's current events.
Ahead of its time.
Exactly. But I love this because he's going to bounce, right? He's going to peace out. And he stands up because he knows the water's coming. He gets like 3 steps. His exact words are, Lago, "Oh no, I'm still plugged in." I love it. I'm still plugged in. So because he can't escape, we get a cool image here, Lago.
That's a cool image. That's a cool image right there.
I had to include that one. I said this in other episodes, Lago. I have a much more strong appreciation for this show now. Because when you're watching it, you're not watching like individual frames as much as the whole thing.
Yeah.
And me doing screen grabs forces me to really acknowledge and appreciate the art on the show.
Oh yeah. No, and like as you're showing this, like even this would be awesome on a shirt, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
And if you're into that, like I'm not trying to like promote this book, but get the book. The book has like the animated cells and like more detailed images. You could see all how they were meant to look. Because even in Disney Plus, with like the quality is not the greatest. It's good, but it's not the greatest. With the book, you could see the clear, the way it was meant to be seen, the colors they were supposed to use, and the way the face looks, and all the details and the facial features and all that.
Oh, that's so cool. I have flipped through it on occasion. Jay Gerk actually offered to loan it to me for the summer with doing these episodes, and I didn't take it off his hands. But I eventually at Lago, here you are enabling me again. That's my figures and the book.
Sorry.
No, it's all good, man. I this book eventually, I think it's a matter of if I see it in hand, like in a bookstore or something, or at a show, I'll probably pick it up.
I think like when I got it on Amazon, it was fairly cheap. It was like not a lot of money. It was like stupid cheap. It was like why don't I have this?
Yeah, but this needs to be on my shelf.
You're gonna play the waiting game. You got to play the waiting game on it probably. If it's too high, you got to play the waiting game.
Long game.
The long game. Sorry.
Greg said Richter and Avalanche working together could easily have destroyed that dam. You're not wrong.
Yeah, but in the show where Snow hurts Wolverine's eyes, you know, you never know what could happen.
Yes. That's what I said with Matthew. I'm like, wait, why does water-based snow hurt Wolverine's eyes so bad?
And it hurt him so bad. He's like, no, like,
no,
dude, what?
You like swam in acid before, I'm pretty sure.
Like crazy.
You grew back from just being a skeleton, and
yeah.
That's you. All right, to close out this episode, the Blackbird picks everybody up. Cyclops is trying to call back to the mansion. There's no answer. I did want to point this out, Lago. So obviously there was the implication that Gambit was a traitor in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Jubilee later says to him on the Blackbird, "I knew you couldn't be a traitor." And he says, "Well, how do you know I'm not a traitor?" I feel like that was intentional heading into Days of Future Past later this season.
Some foreshadowing there.
Yes.
You know?
Because obviously that's his shtick there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we close out with they get back, they see an image, and the mansion is completely destroyed, which will take us in to next week's episode where a certain brother of Charles Xavier might have paid him a little bit of attention.
Man, great episode, man.
Yeah, it really was. Again, I'm a sucker for cameos. Greg said as a kid before we had easy access to the net and only had magazines like Wizard to get this art, did you ever pause and try using a camera to take a picture? So I guess he means like a picture of the magazine. So did you read Wizard World as a kid at all, Lago? The Wizard magazine?
I wouldn't read it. I was more of like looking at pictures. Like I have an art background, so my big thing, one of the things that I would do with this show, specifically this show and Spider-Man, my parents for Christmas once got me like a TV VCR combined television.
Okay.
And I would get blank tapes and I would record and then I would pause it on the scene that I like and try to draw it. So I would do a lot of that. That's kind of like how I started drawing when I was a kid. Like I'd pause things and try to draw it from the screen.
That's so incredible. And you know what? It's not so much for that purpose, but it's amazing. And again, kids nowadays don't realize what dead technology is like. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how many of us around our age would literally record those on VHS right off the TV and then have them in our collection.
Yep. It was awesome. It was so cool. You'd have to be there and then like you could pause it before the commercials and then or have nowadays, if I could go back, I would record all the commercials just to reminisce about those things, you know. But back in the day, you're so used to commercials that you didn't want to see them. You would stop it and then record it when it starts over again.
100% agree, and I'd say the same thing with Wizard. I've over the years, I threw out most of Wizard magazines over the years. I love going through old Wizard magazines. I found for like $1 at a show or something. Looking at like the different advertisements in those magazines is also fun too.
Oh yeah, like I have one right here actually. Some
nice.
Old ones.
Oh sweet.
Yeah, I went to like a comic shop and they had some, and I was like, I have to get these. What are these? Here, I got Wolverine right here.
Do they have like any cards packed with them or anything? They used to do like
these still have the plastic, but they come with comic books behind them. They would have like
nice.
These comics in them. So
we were so spoiled back then. I know we have Toy Collector magazine right now, which I do enjoy picking up. But those Wizards, man, you got cards, you got comics, like a completely fictitious, completely made up toy value guide that meant nothing, but we all All right, so cameos, we went through most of these already. I'm sure I'll miss somebody, but we got Pyro, we got Mystique, we got Avalanche, and we got Blob, who will then later this season go on to form with Magneto, the brother of Evil Mutants. We got Sunfire. We got, I think you said it was Warpath, not Thunderbird, right?
Yeah, Warpath, Feral, Northstar.
Yep. Aurora, his sister, which I don't have pictured here. I apologize. So yeah, and Caliban also, and Caliban. So most of these characters later on did come back in future episodes in one way or another. Oh, I forgot one thing I wanted to mention. So in the scene where they're talking about the inhibitor collars for the mutants, the leader says a brilliant scientist came up with this idea. The scientist he's referring to turns out to be Adler, I believe his name is, which is the character that Mystique pretends to be later on in the season on Muir Island.
Okay, there you go.
Together. So then Xavier and Rogue go to Muir Island later in the show, and Adler claims he can cure mutants, and that's where we get Angel turn into Archangel.
And that's one of the coolest character designs there are.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that was them again laying the seeds that later on we're gonna get that character down the road. But
which is interesting because weren't they some of the first few episodes kind of like out of order?
I know at least one of the seasons they were out of order. Yes.
Yeah, I remember hearing somewhere where the producer was talking about I think it was the X-Men animated series that they had some things out of order in the beginning.
I know Disney Plus put them up out of order as well originally.
Okay.
So you had to if you wanted to watch it in the correct order on Disney Plus, you'd have to skip ahead a few episodes and jump back and things like that. Also, Domino. We didn't mention Domino.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, I did read online that She uses a power that's not her power set in the episode, so whatever, but it's a thing, you know?
She was there.
Exactly. All right, Lago, very much like on a Tuesday where you and the Twimigo family put people on the hot seat. We're going to put you on the hot seat right now.
Oh, no. Here you go.
So, Lago, first of all, who is your favorite character in this episode?
In this episode, I really liked Gambit, just because, you know, you have that switcheroo there. You know, if you're watching it without knowing what's going to happen, you're like, oh no, did he really do this? And if you're a comic fan, you're thinking, oh, he definitely did this, you know? And then you got the big switcheroo in the end. So I really do like that. Second would have to be Cable, because he's so badass in this show, in this episode.
You picked mine right there. I was going to go with the Blob, but he's only technically a cameo here. So, yeah, Cable, just so BA. The weapons, the attitude, like knowing where his character goes later in the show. Cable definitely being mine. This one could be a little bit hard. Do you have a favorite like quote or anything you might know, or maybe one I shared from the episode? That's getting into the weeds a little bit, but
yeah, it'd probably have to be the with Master Mold saying I'm still plugged in, or it's just so ridiculous. It reminded me of the Wolverine thing with the snow. Like, there's a lot of these weird things in this show that when you're watching as an adult, you're like, why did this happen? You know, what is going on?
It's so perfect. That since you picked that one, that was going to be mine. My second was I'm the Wild Man of Borneo. I just
like what?
Yeah, like a kid's gonna get that. It's like when Beast makes the Shakespearean references. Like as a kid, you're not gonna get those, but as an adult, you do. So, how about your favorite moment in the episode? Something that happened that really stuck with you that you enjoyed.
Now it's basically when they're using the powers on the cement, and knowing that like, it's supposed to be cooled off. It's not happening. So I think that really changed. Like, even having doing this show right now, it changes the way you look at the show or the episode, because you're like, wait, I didn't know that. You're right. So it kind of becomes, as an adult, I don't know what it is. For me, the funny moments, the weird, wacky moments are the ones that they get me the most.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I absolutely agree. Favorite moment for me, I think I'm gonna go with the Gambit flipping the cards and saying, "Want to see a card trick?" And it's basically a distraction, so we can obviously kick their butt and get away. And other than that, Lago, any closing thoughts on the episode itself? You know, is it something you enjoyed? Did you enjoy previous episodes more? I don't know, just generally speaking.
Well, I like the episode because of the cameos, and there's like, when you take a step back, there's a lot of things going on in here. Like you were talking about with the way Magneto sees things, the way Xavier sees things. You have the enslaved mutants, the whole idea of someone in your, I would say family, but it's your team. Are they betraying you? Or are they not betraying you? What else? You know, you have the wacky things going on. So it's one of those episodes that has a lot of things going on, a lot of interesting ideas, all packed into 20 minutes of a episode. So again, once you step back and you really dig in, it's when you're like, oh wow, no wonder these animated series kept us watching. Yeah. You know, they were very detailed for young minds.
100%. And they didn't pull punches. I've said that before. For a kid's audience, they put a lot on you as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, and honestly, I really feel like anybody who watches growing up, it made you a better person because it helped you in a kid-friendly way, using comic book characters and cartoons, ways to make you think, which nowadays one of the hardest things to do, as you know, is to make kids think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're told everything, they Google everything. To make them actually think about a topic nowadays is very hard. So, you know, getting kids to think at a young age watching this show, it was phenomenal on Leewald's end and Fox's end in general.
Oh, definitely. And even like I was saying, I was watching it with my 7-year-old and my 2, almost 3-year-old. My son was the older one. He loved it. And I asked my daughter at the end, "Did you like the show?" And she gave me like a sad figure. "No, Papa, no." But my son was loving it, dude. But she watched the whole thing. She was glued to the TV until afterwards. She's like, "No," because a lot of things going on, a lot of like, explosions and all that. And she's watching Peppa Pig.
That's a 500 batting average. That gets you in the Hall of Fame right there.
Okay,
So
good.
You're fine. 500 batting average gets you in the Hall of Fame. All right, Lago, sir. I appreciate you being here tonight, man. Please do me a favor. Tell everybody watching and on the playback what your socials are, where people can find you, and what your next project is going to be.
Sure. But before I do that, I did find the information on that character because it was kind of killing me because I remember. So in the opening scene when they're running at each other, you have the X-Men and then the villains. There's this one villain that doesn't make sense. He looks like it kind of looks like an alien. And I just found out he's the mystery villain of the opening credits of the X-Men animated series is an old Hulk villain, the Gargoyle. So it's the Gargoyle. The design is very different. But
okay.
Yeah. But socials, you could find me on Instagram, Lago_Figz, where I post a lot of toy news. That's mostly what I do there. I'm also on Chat Migos Assemble on Tuesdays on the Toy Migos YouTube channel, and I also have a YouTube Lago_Figz as well, where I'm posting reviews every now and then. That's fairly new though. So yeah.
Well, check Lago out, everybody. And again, if you're an East Coast individual like us, the Tuesday shows that Lago is a co-host on are so much fun to watch. There's a rotating guest pretty much every week. They go through and just discuss toy news. It's a wonderful show. It's about an hour long, usually, Lago, give or take, I think.
Yeah, it's fairly short, yeah.
Yeah, and the Thursday night show as well for Toy Amigos. Those West Coast guys tend to be up a little bit later than us here on the East Coast.
Yeah, I rarely make it to the Thursday shows because it's so late for me, but since summer's happening, I'd probably be on some of the Thursday shows as well.
Yeah, I have because there's so many great shows to watch. I literally on my wall calendar in my kitchen, I have like every show written down. Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, if I'm awake tonight, I want to watch Jay Shot and Matthew. I want to make sure I watch Laser Pants. I want to make sure I watch Toy Migos, Dan Who on a Wednesday, like whoever it might be, Trevor, Art. There's so many to watch.
Yeah, and isn't it amazing that like we have a lot of toy content, and I listen to it. I listen to a lot of this stuff on the way to work every day, or on the way back. And my wife drives with me, and sometimes she's like, "Are you tired of listening to the same people talk about the same things?" And then, no, I'm not, because everybody has different opinions. Everybody has different information, and I don't know. It's something about listening to others speak about the same things you like. You feel like you're part of it, Yeah,
exactly. And that's the best thing about the internet. Like, I love that we can now see each other at shows again. That's huge. But it's one of those things where once you get to work, in most cases, we're not fortunate enough to have other people that are similarly collecting figures or comics. And it's so nice that somebody, in another state like you and I can get here and talk together. Cheney out on the West Coast, wherever somebody might live. Chamba, is it Australia or New Zealand, I think?
Australia.
So it's just so cool. Analog Toys is over there as well. Like people can just share content and we can interact like this about something we're all passionate about. And it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
It really is.
And before we go, I forgot to mention, if you are going to go to the New Jersey Wayne Toy Show on July 2nd, it's the first Sunday of every month. I'm going to have a table there, so stop on by.
Nice.
Have a little chat, pick up some figs if you'd like. So, yeah, I'll be there too.
I'm sorry, what was the date again for that?
I think it's July 2nd. It's the first Sunday of every month, so it's the first Sunday of July.
Okay.
So I think it's
perfect.
July 2nd.
I think that's Saturday, the first Saturday of July, is the Hershey, Pennsylvania toy and comic book show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I have some buddies who live in that area down in Hershey, PA. So I'm planning to go on Saturday, but that's perfect because on Sunday, maybe I can swing down and hang out in Jersey and see what goes on down there.
Yeah, come by, man. See what goes on. I love that. I love it.
Thanks, man. All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. Lago, again, thank you for being so generous with your time. I greatly appreciate you being here, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.
I'd love to have you back. At the end of the season, I'm hoping to have as many of the co-hosts from the first season come back on for one massive show where we all watch the finale and talk about it.
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna be keeping up with this now. I'm gonna be watching every episode you're watching. I'm gonna be watching.
Nice, that's awesome. Also, thanking everybody who was here in the chat tonight, participating and watching. Again, it's a lot of fun enjoying this experience with all of you. So, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you're new, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It's free for you, doesn't cost you anything. Helps us grow the channel tremendously in a march to 5,000 subscribers. Go ahead, hit that bell for notifications. That way, YouTube actually notifies you and tells you when we post new content here on the channel. Like our weekly toy hunts, reviews, and live streams. Leave a comment down below. Hit that like button. And for daily toy content, check us out over Instagram and Twitter at Disavowed_12. I'm not going to do the whole toy show thing. I'll stop it there.
You're so good at it. You're so good at it. My goodness.
I'm here a lot reciting with my eyes closed.
Wow.
Take care. Stay healthy. I will be seeing all of you at the pegs. Bye, everybody.
So good.